The most financially stressed people I know right now aren't lazy, they aren't irresponsible. They don't buy designer clothes on high-interest credit cards, and they don't blow their paychecks in Vegas. In fact, they are broke exactly because they did everything right. They followed the exact script society handed them. They went to a good school, they took out the loans to get the degree, they landed the safe, respectable 9-to-5 job, they sacrificed to buy a house, and they religiously put a portion of their paycheck into a standard savings account every single month. By all the traditional metrics, Max is winning. He is the poster child for doing everything right. But here's the reality. Max's salary has grown by about 3% a year, while the cost of his groceries, his insurance, and his property taxes have quietly doubled. He feels like he's running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. He's making more money than he ever has in his life, but he feels poorer than he did 5 years ago. Max isn't doing anything wrong. He is just trapped in an outdated system. He's playing a game where the rules were changed without anyone telling him. Let's break down the 5 waves of this system that are quietly keeping Max, and probably you, broke. Wave 1, the degree tax. The old rule you were taught was simple. A college degree is your golden ticket. It doesn't matter how much it costs. Taking out student loans is good debt because it will eventually pay for itself. But today, a degree isn't a golden ticket. It is a mortgage you are forced to take out before you even have a job. Let's look back at Max. He graduated with $40,000 in student loans. The system told him this was perfectly normal. What the system didn't tell him is the invisible cost of that debt. Max is paying about $400 a month just to service those loans. Here's the brutal math. That $400 leaving his account every month during his 20s and 30s isn't just paying off past education, it is actively stealing his future compound interest. If Max had been able to invest that same $400 a month into a standard S&P 500 index fund starting at age 22, by the time he hits 40, he would have hundreds of thousands of dollars working for him. Instead, he's spending his most critical wealth-building decade just trying to get back to zero. The degree tax doesn't just put you in debt, it ensures you start your financial life 10 years late. Wave 2, the loyalty penalty. You were told that if you put your head down, worked hard, and stayed loyal to one company, you would be taken care of. You would climb the corporate ladder, get the raises, and eventually retire comfortably. Max is incredibly loyal. He's been at his current company for 5 years. He works late, never complains, and gets a solid 3% cost of living raise every single year. His manager constantly tells him he's a rock star. But here's the problem. Over the last few years, inflation has been hovering around 4%, 5%, and sometimes higher. If your raise is 3%, but the cost of keeping the lights on and buying groceries goes up by 5%, you did not get a raise. You got a 2% pay cut. Max is actually working harder this year, with 5 more years of valuable experience for less purchasing power than he had on his very first day. Here's the dirty secret that every HR department knows but will never tell you. The budget to hire new talent is always massively larger than the budget to retain existing talent. While Max accepts his 3% loyalty bump, a new guy is hired tomorrow to sit right next to him, doing the exact same job but starting at a 20% higher salary. The people making the real money in today's economy are the job hoppers, people who change companies every 2 to 3 years to force a market rate adjustment. In the modern economy, corporate loyalty isn't rewarded, it is penalized. Wave 3, the savings illusion. Growing up, Max was taught that the ultimate sign of financial maturity was having money sitting safely in a bank account. So every time he gets paid, he does the responsible thing. He transfers a portion of his paycheck into his bank's standard savings account. He looks at his banking app, sees his $10,000 emergency fund sitting there, and feels safe. He is doing exactly what his parents did. But here is the illusion. Max thinks that because the number on the screen isn't going down, his money is safe. What he doesn't realize is that cash is not a safe haven. Cash is a melting ice cube. Let's look at the math again. The bank is paying Max an average interest rate of about 0.1% a year on his savings. Meanwhile, the real rate of inflation, the actual cost of housing, food, and energy, is running at 4 to 5%. This means Max is mathematically guaranteed to lose about 4% of his wealth's purchasing power every single year. The bank isn't protecting his money, they are lending his $10,000 out to other people at 7% interest, keeping the profit and letting inflation quietly eat Max's savings. He doesn't see a transaction labeled inflation fee on his bank statement. The number $10,000 stays exactly the same. But next year, that same $10,000 buys 4% less groceries, 4% less gas, and 4% less freedom. Keeping your money in a traditional savings account isn't playing it safe anymore. It is a guaranteed slow-motion loss. Wave 4, the housing trap. The loudest piece of financial advice Max ever got from his parents and society was renting is just throwing money away. You are paying someone else's mortgage. You need to buy a house as soon as possible. So Max did what he was supposed to do. He drained his savings, scraped together a 5% down payment, and bought a starter home. He took a picture holding the keys, posted it on Instagram, and everyone in his comments congratulated him. He felt like he had finally made it. But let's look behind the Instagram post at the reality of his bank account. Max's monthly mortgage payment is $2,400, but that is just the baseline. Then comes the property tax, then the homeowner's insurance, then the HOA fees. And when the water heater broke last winter, there was no landlord to call. That was a $2,000 emergency expense straight out of his pocket. Max is officially what the financial industry calls house poor. Almost 50% of his take-home pay is being swallowed by a single illiquid asset. Because all his cash is tied up in the house, his cash flow is dead. He can't afford to invest heavily in the stock market. He can't afford to take a risk and start a side business. He can't even quit his job or move to a new city for a better opportunity because he's literally chained to a piece of property. Owning real estate isn't inherently bad, but buying a house when you aren't financially ready just to fulfill a societal expectation turns a supposed asset into a giant, expensive anchor. Renting isn't throwing money away. Sometimes renting is simply paying for the flexibility to grow your wealth elsewhere. Wave 5, the lifestyle mandate. This is the final trap, and it is the hardest one to escape because it feels so good. The rule here is you work hard. You've earned this. Treat yourself. Max finally gets a promotion. He is now making $10,000 more a year. This should be the moment he finally gets ahead, right? Wrong. The moment the new title hits his email signature, the societal pressure kicks in. He looks at his perfectly fine, paid-off car and decides a manager shouldn't be driving a 10-year-old sedan. So he goes to the dealership and signs a 72-month financing agreement for a shiny new SUV. He upgrades his phone. He starts buying $6 coffees instead of making them at home because, hey, he deserves it. Financial experts call this lifestyle creep, but it's really a mandate. The modern consumer economy is a highly optimized machine designed to intercept every extra dollar you make before you can invest it. It is built on subscriptions, microtransactions, and easy financing that make luxury look affordable as a monthly payment. Here is the tragedy of Max's situation. Society has taught him to confuse looking rich with being wealthy. Looking rich is a $700 monthly car payment and a closet full of designer logos. Being wealthy is not having a car payment at all and putting that $700 into an asset that prints money for you while you sleep. Max looks incredibly successful to everyone on his street, but mathematically, his net worth is stagnant. He is spending all of his new income just to maintain the illusion of success, keeping himself perpetually broke on a much higher salary. The action plan. So the old script is broken. Following the rules keeps you broke. What do you actually do about it right now? You don't panic and you don't give up. You just write a new script. Here are 4 immediate actions you can take to stop the bleed and get ahead of the system. First, move your cash immediately. Stop letting traditional banks eat your money. If you have savings sitting in an account earning 0.1%, open a high-yield savings account today. It takes 10 minutes. These accounts currently pay around 4.5 to 5% interest. It is not going to make you rich overnight, but it stops inflation from secretly destroying your emergency fund. It is the absolute minimum you must do to protect your cash. Second, audit your corporate loyalty. Look at your salary trajectory over the last 2 years. Did your raises outpace inflation? If the answer is no, and you haven't been promoted in the last 24 months, your loyalty is costing you money. Start sending out resumes this weekend. The goal isn't necessarily to leave. The goal is to discover your true market value. Sometimes the only way to get a 15% raise at your current job is to have an offer letter from a competitor in your hand. Third, decouple your ego from your assets. This is a mindset shift, but it is critical. Stop buying things to prove to people you don't even like that you are doing well. Cancel the subscriptions you don't use, drive the older car, delay the housing purchase until the math, not your parents, not your friends, but the actual math, makes sense. Evaluate every single financial decision through a cold, emotionless lens. Fourth, prioritize cash flow over dead equity. The new wealthy class doesn't just stockpile cash, they buy cash flow. This means shifting your focus from saving money to acquiring assets that pay you. This can mean index funds, dividend stocks, or even investing in your own skills to start a side business. Ask yourself before every big purchase, is this taking money out of my pocket every month, or is it putting money into my pocket? The conclusion: the game has fundamentally changed. The rules you were taught weren't malicious. They were just created by a generation that lived through an unprecedented economic boom with cheap housing, cheap education, and a predictable corporate ladder. That world no longer exists. If you keep doing what Max is doing, blindly following a 30-year-old script in a 2026 economy, you will spend the rest of your life wondering why you are working so hard just to fall further behind. You will be doing everything right and still end up broke. The winners of today's economy aren't the ones who memorize the old rulebook the best. They are the ones who realize the rulebook is obsolete. They are the ones who dare to step off the treadmill, ignore the societal pressure to look successful, and write their own rules based on math, not tradition. You now know exactly how the system is designed to trap you. You've seen the waves before they hit. The only question left is, are you going to keep playing their game, or are you going to start playing yours?